Alright, I thought I'd make a video because I'm stuck in a rut, and I thought I'd make a video about that. Um, so basically, long story short, despite being on disability welfare for the greater part of 16 years or so, I've worked about 13 to 14 of those years. Um, I thought I would see, the thing about it is, I don't want to be called lazy by other people because I've actually put in a lot of effort to like work hard as much as I can physically, exhausting myself and so on. Like I'm just not very durable in terms of like physical exertion or something. But I've never shied away from working as hard as I actually can, at least. And when I wasn't working physically, I was working mentally, trying to like think out problems the world faces and so on. And that's what my existential crisis guide and toolkit is basically. It's my distilled sort of like, this is the parameters that you have to go by and this will work out kind of thing. Um, so basically, there is such a thing as stupid work where you're not doing something particularly useful, so you don't get paid much and so on. And I understand the whole communist effort based economics versus the value based economics of the capitalists and so on. Um, but there is a value to hard work, even if it doesn't seem financially very effective and so on. And the thing about me is, I've never been particularly lazy. If I'm not working physically, then I'm working mentally. Um, like headaches, focus, stuff like that. Like or like either my muscles are burning or my head is hurt. Got a migraine or something. It's splitting headache. So that's like my work ethic, basically. Even on the disability welfare. And you can blame me for being a weak individual in terms of mind or body or something like that, but you can't denigrate my willpower, let's put it, to the extent that my body or mind will allow me to. And to further that, basically, my first job I worked for a year at, and it was the usual sort of like dress shoes kind of job where you stand around 8 hours and stock shelves and sell things and so on. I've never been a salesman, so like I just gravitated towards support work for the other people to make sales and so on. Um, but eventually it got to the point where I was walking 45 minutes one way per, or an hour and a half a day total, and standing around 8 hours in dress shoes. And for the last month or two, I basically got like a massive crack in my heels, both of them, and like I don't like it's hard to describe exactly, but like literally imagine a crack in your flesh, like it's a crack. It's not like a laceration or something like that. It's literally just standing on your heels all day, causing a crevasse in your flesh. That was like the last month or two of my work there because I had to quit because basically it was absolute agony to stand on my feet, basically. Like it was actually like legitimately like I don't even know if anyone else has ever experienced like a full on crack in their heel, basically, but like that's what I was experiencing. So that's like how hard I was working, like carrying televisions and like stuff like that, doing 150 sit up push ups and 100 sit ups a day or something like that. The second job I got, I actually was walking an hour and a half one single way, so about 3 hours a day, to work at a McDonald's till job, just punching orders into the system and so on, and doing breakfast preparation because it was nighttime shift work. So that was like an adventure too. So that's like that should tell you something about my work ethic when I'm actually like interested in doing something and getting paid and so on. Like it's not like I'm like lazy entirely. It's just that I'm not very I'm not very durable. Let's put it that way. At least anymore, compared to before. But 11 hours up on my feet every day, and so on is a pretty good marker. And I grew up doing yard work, like raking leaves and dragging them on a big tarp, which is pretty hard work. When you're dragging a full bed of leaves that are wet and stuff like that on a tarp, or like pitching compost or like mowing the grass on a 3 lot yard, basically takes about an hour, or like something like that, walking half an hour to school one way every day and so on. So I've always been kind of physically active and doing something at least. And when I got on disability, before I was on disability, I was actually like, reliant on my dad for rent basically and stuff like that beforehand. But I would work. See, what pissed him off was I wasn't making something of myself. Not that I wasn't working hard, basically, because I would work only about 12 hours a week for about half a year to a year, delivering 6 hours per day, 2 days a week, newspapers up 2 hills at like a 40-degree angle. Like if 45 degrees is like peak, like like the maximum angle, then like I was at like 40 degrees for like two different hills. Like up and down both hills, basically. Like, and I'm not even lying about that. It's like actually the case. Maybe it was 35 degrees on one of them, but like it was like actually kind of like whoa, dude. Like it was like I grew up right beside the hill and stuff like that, so I had some practice going up this steepness. But like cars would constantly stall out when they tried to go up above the on the hill, basically, and so on. So like it was one of those hills, and like if someone wanted to, I could show them the hill, and they'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, okay, fine, fair enough." Like I would walk a long time. So even if I wasn't working like a lot of hours, I was working pretty heavy, and I had this cart with me at all times when I was doing those papers, the free papers, 2 days a week, and it was like a full cart, and I would like fill it up twice to do the papers and stuff like that every day that I was doing them and so on. So it wasn't like I was being lazy entirely. When I am working, I'm working hard. Um, you know, and then eventually, I shifted to about 100 newspapers of the free paper once a day, once a week, twice a week. Can't remember exactly. And I nearly broke my back carrying so many papers. Like I literally, like, basically, I did something with my back. I don't know if it technically broke my back or if like I nearly broke my back. Whether it's one actual or nearly or what. But basically, when I could barely walk from the agony and like just lie down when the incident happened because like I felt my back basically were like crack, and I was like, holy shit, Like I actually left the duffel bag on the ground and I walked home. Like it took like 15 minutes for like a 2 minute walk, basically, like, and I just laid down and was like, oh my god, ow, 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 and like just I couldn't focus on anything. It was just like little agony. So like that's my work ethic and stuff like that. Like you can't, like I was working like 3 hours a week, 3.5 hours, sorry, 3.5 hours a day, 6 days a week or something like that. Um, you know, and I mean, granted, it's only 3.5 hours, but it's like 6 days a week that I was doing it, and it was physical work, carrying papers and stuff. On top of that, for about 7 years or something, or 10 years or something like that. On top of it, a little less papers actually, some of those years, but like I was working my way up to the 100 newspapers 6 days a week, 3.5 hours of walking a day kind of thing. And the thing about doing that is I know people valued it because it was subscription based, so they were actually paying to get the paper. And like I knew it had a finite sort of stop and start point. It's like get the papers at a certain time and then deliver them until you're done, and then you've done your job and you got good work and you can relax and so on. But I was still like commenting on culture war stuff and trying to be influential and stuff like that and think through problems. And I'm not gonna lie, even if no one takes me seriously, I came up with a bunch of things before it was cool by at least like 6 months at times, or like I would say things that like Sargon of Akkad would say the next week, constantly, like absolutely constantly. Like if you look at my record of thought processes in the past, I generate a lot of sort of spam comments from myself basically. Um, but like it's part of the process of thinking things through so that I can be accurate ahead of time, basically, and so on. And part of it is also great minds think alike, I guess, and so on, where people are coming up with, are centering or triangulating on the same principles and concepts from different angles and stuff like that. And I just happen to be one of those people that's a high performer when I'm actually doing it. And some of the classic timeless wisdom and stuff like that. That's really simple. Eludes me sometimes. But if you want to get into the weeds sometimes as well of the complex sort of like deep thoughts, then I can do that too a little bit. It's just a question of which ones are which for me. But basically, long story short, if I'm not working myself to the bone physically, I'm working myself mentally until I get a splitting headache. Um, so, what's the purpose of this? It would appear, despite my best efforts to be smart and wise and hardworking and durable and reliable and stuff like that, um, I suck at making money. It might even be that my best bet is to play video games and just enjoy life and invite people into the fun, and then they'll have fun too, and then that'll be a proper career or something like that. Sort of a work smarter, not harder kind of principle. And I am about 40, which is when about the midlife crisis kind of thing kicks in. Except I started mine about 7 years ago. And one of the outcomes is you work smarter, not harder, as an older person. Um, and it's just a matter of experience and so on. But I think God is telling me to just chill out and stop like focusing on trying to be super productive. Um, at least for the time being, and I'm chomping at the bit. I'm like um, Kevin wants to slave away, basically. The Kevin's yearns to slave away at productive labor. It's kind of my thing, but at the same time, it's not like safe to work doing papers at the moment, and the routes are all taken, and like I had a schizo spurg out that kind of maybe alienated me from the paper company or something like that eventually. Um, uh, a while back, and like there's three reasons. Those are the three reasons why I don't know if I can do papers again, basically, which is the only physical work that I can possibly do at the moment. Uh, in terms of potential and so on. I mean, my stomach's just way too queasy to mow dog shit, basically, which is one of the other things I could potentially have done. But like literally, like my stomach is like picky when it comes to what it's strong against. My body can shrug off any basic disease whatsoever within 2 days that it takes another person a full week to recover from. But if I smell fish, for instance, I can't stop gagging basically until I'm out of the smell. Basically, it's a very picky sort of strengths and weaknesses, very specialized kind of strength and weakness to certain things and so on. Very autism coded because I probably am autistic. But I want to say that um, as my attempt to be productive regardless today, all of this feeds into one thing. There is a time and place for putting your best effort into place. Uh, Early youth is when you put the effort in and you try your hardest. And when you're older, you work a little smarter, not harder. Now, the thing is, society needs people to do dumb jobs that are hard, and society needs people to manage things and so on. And what you learn is, like, it's not about getting immigrants or something like that to do the jobs for you. It's about getting the youth to do the hard jobs that are relatively thankless because they've got the motivation, but they don't have the skills to manage the company or something like that. As the youths get experience in the workforce, particularly in the field of work they're doing, basically, then they become more natural bosses, but they're no longer youth. So they lack the energy they once had physically, um, bodily, and so on. But they have experience and wisdom. So leadership of the company or something like that naturally gravitates towards them. The exact parameters of this I can't say, but at the same time, a boss that does nothing except kind of show up is probably not quite the right boss. Like if they're participating in using the hedge trimmers in a yard work company or something like that as well, then that's kind of more like what I'm thinking a boss should be for a yard company. Um, you know, but for some companies, sometimes just knowing exactly how to move, when to move, what to move, and so on, is the job in of itself, and so on. And when the communist is saying, "Oh no, the workers need to control things," well, the workers are 20 years old and they don't have the job experience to understand exactly how the company is supposed to work for maximum productivity. Um, you know, and that's why it's a thing. And to finalize this, there is it's formulated in the Roman. I'll tie this to the Roman army as well, so you get an understanding of just exactly how this works. So there's the Velite, the Principe, or no, Velite, Hastati, Principe, and Triari. And basically, the Velite are the just entered adulthood soldiers who are light skirmishers whose job it is to throw a bunch of javelins. They don't wear heavy armor necessarily. Um, they're not supposed to be the in it to win it fighting necessarily. They're just to soften the enemy basically. But it's a lot of work. You got to run around a lot. And also, you notice there's a distinct lack of close-up fighting for like veterancy. And then the Hastati come into play in the next age bracket, and they're the ones that start the more melee combat sort of thing with their own javelins that they throw as well. Just before they run into combat, basically. And then the Principe are usually the ones designed to give the killing blow in the next age bracket. So you're talking about like 15 to 25, 25 to 35, 35 to 45. And then anyone older than 45, basically, or 50, is the Triari. And the Triari's job is simply like two or three things at most. If you're using the Triari to fight, something has gone wrong under this army principle. The Triari are the veterans who've been fighting for all their lives, are a little physically weak, but mentally are they tough as hell. Their job is to shore up the confidence of the younger generations of fighters to be the hard, I will sacrifice my life for my fellow man, my tribesmen, um, final line of desperation, and they will catch the people that lose their nerve and flee the battlefield, and then to kind of send them back into the fray a little bit, and so on, with the sort of like, we got your back, don't worry about it. And if all three lines of the younger generations break, the Velite, the Hastati, the Principe break, then the principle is they run to the Triari, and then all of them, including the Triari, rush into combat all as one mob. You'll notice that the generals tend to be probably Hastati or Principe, or maybe Triari, and so on. I know there's cavalry and stuff like that, but this is an infantry heavy army that is Rome and so on, so that's what that's about. And the veterancy and the experience and the wisdom and so on leads to leadership that just wouldn't be possible in youth and the fires of youth and so on. But you'll notice that the Roman army in the Republic era used the strengths of each age bracket roughly as part of its principle on the military field. And the equipment matches that, where essentially based on your age, you get more and more armor and equipment, and you upgrade in ranks and so on. Because it was a sort of get your own equipment kind of army in a sense. It wasn't exactly that every single person that age bracket would be part of one of those ranks. It was more just the kind of commonly understood average and so on. So there was allowances for some people to be older who were doing the more junior stuff, and there was some allowance for people who were slightly younger to do the more senior veteran stuff as well. And I guess what I'm learning is that I'm essentially supposed to take a step back, rethink my approach to how I work, recognize that I'm not doing a lot of good no matter how much effort I put into this stuff in this particular way, and just enjoy life. And when the time comes, I'll know I'm ready to get the equipment necessary for me to live stream video game play and make an impact that way, possibly, or something like that. And it's literally just the equipment thing that's really keeping me back, as far as I know. Maybe I don't have what it takes ever, but like, I've kind of grown accustomed to the idea that on paper I've got a lot of advantages, but I'm a foolish individual, so I don't know how to use them. And it's kind of like, okay, So this is part of my effort to calm down, accept when I can't actually do anything useful, that my current trajectory is a bit of a failure, change direction slightly, at least, but to take a break until I know I've got the equipment to actually pursue what I actually want to do, basically, and so on. And that's what the triari are basically about, and so on.